So fun.
Yes. What's going up, friends? Hope you're having an awesome day. I am Gabe Strom, and I am very excited for today's special interview. I am joined by Jerry and Alex Mills, currently living in San Diego, California. I'm here in Chicago, and some of you guys that heard about this interview, I want to talk today about their incredible journey and story from zero to building a brand and selling their first million. It's actually $1.2 million. I'll ask them details in a second. Within their first year selling on Amazon private label specifically, and you guys have been in the business for a couple years doing another business that you recently just sold, and you guys made a ton of mistakes along the way. It was very messy. Your path is not the straight path that some people see in the infomercial about success from entrepreneurs. But anyways, Alex and Jerry, good friend of ours. We go way back also. I think we first connected back in the Willow days, Alex, when you were still working at Willow Creek in Barrington, and I was going to church out there at the time. And so we've been around the industry. Anyways, guys, thanks for being here. How are you guys today?
We're good.
Very good. Excited to have you guys on and talk about this. So I want to clarify, Alex, you corrected me. I think I may have made a mistake. We talked about 0 to $1 million in your first year, but it actually wasn't your first year. This was your first year in building a brand, but you guys had been selling private label before. So do you mind giving us like the cliff notes of what was going on?
The first full year of our brand that we sold $1.2 million, and then we had done some sales the quarter prior to that of our new products. But it really was probably only 3 or 4 months into the year prior that we had really done any sales of our brand. So it was the first full year of our brand that we did $1.2 million and some other private label work before that.
Okay, so you had so just to clarify, I want to hit on some high levels. I'm very excited to interview you guys because I've known you guys and I knew you were doing well. I didn't realize you were doing this well. I mean, you guys have been a part of our Alpha Mastermind since we first created it. We'll talk about that today too and how that's been a part of your success. But I'm curious on a high level, how many products are we talking here? I want to clarify this from your mouth. So how many products took you to $1 million first off?
Yep, the majority of it was 3 SKUs. We had another SKU that just did a little bit, but yeah, 3 SKUs.
3 SKUs, for real. No secret SKUs?
And fully, truthfully, one of them is expensive. So that's another part of how we got to the big numbers quickly.
Okay. So you guys, you didn't hit base hits. You hit some home runs and you hit some doubles and triples and right out of the gate. So I'm curious now, you said this was your first full calendar year of building a brand. And I want to talk about, what you guys are doing is very different from what I see a lot of private label sellers doing. That's what's exciting about what you've done. And the reality is there's no one way to success in private label. I've learned over the past couple of years, you can create success a lot of different ways. You can source in the US, you can source in China, you can source in India, you can source in Guatemala, you can, make widgets in your basement if you want to or whatever. But what you guys have done has been very efficient. So when you started, you said that first test year, Alex, can you walk us through like did you guys have other private label products that didn't work out, or what did you guys do in that kind of beta year?
Yeah, it might even be a little bit helpful. Jerry, I don't know if you want to talk about some of the earlier, we've been on Amazon for quite a while. So it's not like, we're not like newbies at all. So it's helpful to kind of set that up a little bit.
Well, yeah, just the nutshell I would say is, we started selling online physical products, and we, over the last 5 years, and built up a business of selling physical products really on Amazon. And it involved a lot of outsourcing and so forth. And we utilized that cash flow then to invest in products in private label. And some of the ideas came from our own experience with those products. So we leveraged that knowledge and experience with our previous business on Amazon with this private label business. So it wasn't straight from knowing nothing about Amazon or e-commerce, but it really was able to capitalize on what we'd already done with Amazon e-commerce.
Yeah.
Well, so I'm glad you brought that up, Jerry. Let's just set the table then, because it's fair. I want to talk about the good, the bad. I want to talk about the ugly, the stuff that this is the stuff that nobody talks. So grab a cup of coffee if you're joining us in the live group. If you're joining live, say hi and comment below where you are dialing in from. I always love connecting with you guys live. And if you're watching the recording, same for you. Grab a cup of coffee. We're going to shoot to do about a 45-minute deep dive on your story. I want to know what products you guys bought, how you funded the business, where you got the ideas from, how you did your first couple products, and really what you would do differently. So that's kind of my agenda for today and for the interview. But walk us through your background. So what were you guys, I guess, quick story. Were you guys like big e-commerce people before, or what were you doing prior to private label?
Yeah, so before private label, we had a large account drop shipping. So we, I think a lot of you guys are familiar with that term. We sold several million a year at our highest drop shipping. So that's really a much different model. It's kind of just finding sell at very skinny margins and kind of pushing it out the door to whoever wants to buy it. So that was how we started, and it was a very good learning experience for how Amazon works. And we also realized that there were a lot of ways that it wasn't kind of like our full sort of zone of genius, I don't think, in that way. And so we really wanted to move into private label, where it's more about branding and marketing and building a real sustainable business.
Yeah. You said a word, Alex. I got to pick up on this. You mentioned the zone of genius. And this is something, Jerry, I know you know a lot about this. This is where, as an entrepreneur, you get really clear on what you're good at and what you like to do. This is some of those Venn diagrams. I'm sure Jerry could draw some fancy stuff on the whiteboard for us, where you actually enjoy to do work. It becomes effortless. You make more money in less time, and things are in flow when you're in your zone of genius. If you're not, so you guys are. This isn't for you guys. I think this is where our visions are very aligned. Is it's not just about money. It's not just about making money and working more to make more money, because that doesn't always solve the problem, but having a clear vision of what you want and then building that inside of your gifting. So you guys came from drop shipping. So that was your hustle before. Real quick, guys, because I get asked this question a lot, especially on YouTube and places. Why make the move from drop shipping to private label? Like, drop shipping, there's the benefits is you have, no cash out of pocket. Your customers are paying you advance. You don't have to carry inventory. I know you guys scaled and had a lot of employees, so that's probably part of the pain. It looks like a sexy model because there's very low risk. And then if you look at private label, more capital intensive to get into, longer product life cycles. It seems like a more risky business model. Why did you guys make the shift, or what's really going on behind the scenes with the drop shipping business?
Well, I think one key differentiator is that with private label, you're creating your own asset, your own business. So besides just being a creator and creating something, it's not just being a middleman and moving things around. And as we know that the rules in the game on Amazon, it's always changing. It's their sandbox, so to speak.
Yep.
But when you're creating your own private label brand, of course, you have the big dog Amazon, but you have so much other opportunity. There's so many other places. And because you then own your brand and have that brand trademarked and control that product, you could sell it in stores, you can sell it online, you can sell it in other countries. There's so many other possibilities, whereas just drop shipping, you could be cut out of that game at any point. Mm-hmm. So that's really, I think, the key differentiator why we wanted to move into private label from the other model.
Okay. So hearing you talk, Jerry, I think this is and I'm glad I want to talk about this because this is the real talk of, not just how do you start a private label business, but how do you transition out of what your current business, that makes you money into private label. This seems to be the big challenge. So you mentioned the big benefit that you're essentially go from, where you have no certainty or control, the business models could disappear at any point in time. The music can stop, versus having certainty and control because it's your brand. You control the brand, you control the asset, you control the list, you control who sells it, and then you're the one that has your brand protected and restricting other resellers from it. So it's you're building your house, kind of think of it as like building your house on the rock and building a true business asset versus, and I hate to say the arbitrage model, but there's a lot of sellers who get stuck in that, buying and selling, whether you're drop shipping, retail arb, online, and it's tough to get out of that. So building an asset. So interesting. Well, I want to talk about this, and this is one of the keys that I've noticed from you guys' story is you do things differently and you focus from the beginning on building a brand. And I got to give credit. I've heard a lot. I hear all PL sellers talk about this. I hear Andy Slamans talk about it. I've heard Brandon and different people talk about building a brand. Craig harped on me, Craig Soderdahl, from like day one of mentoring him, build a brand. And I was thinking in my head, Sarah and I are new PL sellers. We have one private label product. And so we're chasing down Alex and Jerry, but I kept thinking, man, I'm just looking for some products that can make some money. What's this brand? So do you mind sharing very briefly, Alex, how kind of the yard sale versus brand building approach and kind of how you guys are doing things differently?
Yeah. So I think several years ago, the method of private label of like just finding good products that will sell, that you could source, make good margins on, throw some of those up. You can make, you know, $3K a month on each of those, and then you get 10 up and you get 30K a month in profit, and you're good. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I think for a lot of people who are looking to cover their income, like, it's a really, you know, promising way of doing business. I think we were just much more excited about really building efficiently and building in a way where it all works together, and it's not sort of all spread across different niches and categories, but where we're building something really cohesive that makes a lot of sense, and ultimately something that we could sell. I think that was really the biggest motivator in it, is that if you really build a true brand and you build an audience around the brand, then the whole asset becomes sellable for several times your yearly profit.
Yes.
And that really truly is what motivated us to get really clear that we're building a brand and not, you know, a line of random products.
Yeah. Okay. So this is exciting. This is what people don't talk about, because this is, you know, this is thinking on another level. So maybe some of you are hearing this, and this is very next level thought for you. So that's good. So you're talking about, you know, one of the things you guys have done very unique is from the beginning, from day one, you guys have been building to sell and building with the end result in mind. And that's a different method of operation, a different level of freedom than when you work in the business, which is what most entrepreneurs do, where you get stuck, you're sourcing, you're prepping, you're ordering, you're doing design, you're doing all the pieces. So I'm curious, let me ask on a very high level, first things, Alex, I got to get this question out of the way, but everybody wants to know, what is, you know, 1.2 million in sales from 3 products. What's the net on that? What do you, and if you don't mind me asking what your net margins are, this is kind of a transparent question.
But I think it was about 20%, which is a little lower than we would have liked. But, you know, all told, I think that's probably pretty decent for your first year out, first full year. And yeah, it was about 220,000 on that amount.
So roughly 20% net. And is that before you pay yourself in taxes, or where is that?
That was before most expensive, but it was after the cost of advertising on Amazon, after PPC.
Okay. So all the core Amazon expenses, pack and prep, the shipping, the cost of goods sold, all that. So pre-salary and taxes, so you guys can do the net math on that. So 220, you said 225,000?
Yeah. It was 220 total. Yep.
220. Very interesting that I'm seeing a synchronicity here. For some of you guys that have been around the group for a long time, when Zach Young first got in the industry, his first full year doing arbitrage was 700 and some thousand with a 225,000 net profit. And here you guys are kind of in the legacy, you know, 4 years later in private label, which is the holy grail. Zach talked about it all the time, and I see why now. You know, the holy grail, having done it in private label, but without flipping, I don't know, you know, how many SKUs he had back then, like thousands. You guys did it with 3. So so that's the net. So that's a nice year. So 200 grand net profit for your first year in private label. You guys crossed $1 million. Now we've got a friendly competition inside the Alpha Group between you and Craig Soderdahl. If I were to brag on Craig, he was the first member of our Alpha Group to cross $1 million. He crossed it mid last year, and now I believe his numbers are right up to 2.4. I think he's right in that range, and so he's knocking on the door at 3 million. You guys have crossed 1, and there's a friendly race to 8 figures, and to see who can get the first 8-figure exit with the group. So that's what's exciting about private label. I see the big picture to build a true asset, and so we want to share that with you guys. I want to know, Alex, now kind of on the micro level. So how, you know, the big problem, if you look at private label, and I've talked to, you know, been working with sellers for, it's our 4th, going on our 5th year in the industry now. The number one problem I've seen with private label is, how do you pick the right product? And how do you do it? And, you know, most sellers aren't starting with an infinite budget. So I do want to talk about capital as well, how you fund a private label business. But how did you guys, and your approach to product selection is a little different also. Most PL trainings out there, you know, I've bought a bunch of courses and system teach the, you know, kind of the viral launch method, where you go in and you do a bunch of keyword research and you see what viral launch and Helium 10 and some of the fancy software say, and then, you know, it's a big numbers game. You guys did things different. How did you guys approach picking your first product?
Well, I'll just say really quickly, we sell stuff we're excited about, and we use the numbers to validate what we're excited about. The numbers don't validate what we're excited about, we won't sell it, but we also don't want to sell stuff that doesn't matter to us. Okay. So I want Jerry to talk a little bit about actually pick our first, kind of like our anchor product.
Sure.
Because he was really the one who kind of scouted that one out. So I'd love to like lob that to him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that we all use the method that you mentioned of keywords and research and everything, and that's totally valid. And we still use that for other products too. But what people sometimes bypass is, and this is, exercise I've taken people through and something we talk about in the group, as you know, is using your instincts, using your intuition, using your creativity, using the gifts God's given you and your experience. And you can comb through a lot of that. And there's a lot of gold in your story that people aren't aware of. And so some of our first products really came from just experience I had with these products. And then Alex researched them, found that there was opportunity. The numbers confirmed them. Another was just paying attention to the trends. Our flagship product, really, I discovered, I knew a little bit about the niche. And when I saw that niche, being utilized in a product for sale at Starbucks, I saw, okay, this is at Starbucks.
There's something
If
there.
this is at Starbucks, this could be a big deal. And then Alex started researching it and going back and forth and finding the right supplier and right opportunity. And the other thing is that sort of a principle we've looked at is, if everybody is going one way, if everybody bobs, let's weave.
Yeah.
If everybody's saying, well, here's what you do to find a private label. You go at this price point and this and this. We said, well, if everybody's going to this price point, what if we did a much different, higher end price point? Less competition, less people shooting for those sorts of things. So sometimes it pays to do things a little bit differently. Now, I will say there's other problems, no matter whatever choice, right? There's always, in this world, you will have trouble. And we had our own can of worms that we opened up with that.
Yes.
But sometimes
it was a learning.
It pays off.
Yeah, so I would tag onto that. I think it's actually an interesting transition into like some of the problems we ran into. I wouldn't call this a mistake because this product has been amazing for us, but it's been quite a learning curve, and we've learned all the things with this product.
Real quick before we get into that, because I do want to talk about that. I think it's valuable. I mean, your mistakes can be worth 10x, 100x for those of us that are coming on the path to do things differently. So I do want to talk about that. I want to ask first, though, Alex. I want to break down kind of the process very quickly. Like, what did you do? So you left some, there's some gold nuggets. Okay. In all fairness, I told Alex and Jerry, we want to do an interview. We want to share everything but the product and the niche. So I want to, share the backstory of this. So you mentioned some gold nuggets. Shop and retail was the first nugget you guys mentioned. You mentioned Starbucks. So, Sarah and I have done the same thing too. And I recommend all of you guys that are starting your research to go shop retail, because those companies.
Here's a little gold nugget. So watching trends is kind of a big deal. And so if you can get on the front end of a trend, like, have fun, like that's a good thing. And especially if you can get on the front end of a trend that isn't yet saturated on Amazon. So I think that little piece in there, that's a pretty decent gold nugget. And some of the ways that you can kind of validate that is by going to trends.google.com and searching a keyword that you're interested in. And you can kind of see the line of like interest over time for a niche you're interested in.
Yeah, that's a good tip. This is an alpha tip here. It's a very high level tip for any business, really. If you're going to be selling something, go look and see what the trend, the historicals are. And so you're good. This is one of your giftings, Alex. You mentioned trends.google.com. You guys can Google that too. One of your giftings, Alex, is you and Jerry are both very creative as a team. So you both have gifts that complement each other. I think that's one of the things that makes you guys a power couple. And one of your giftings, you guys are like an idea factory. Like, I mean, I'm pretty sure you guys have way more ideas than you have capital and time to implement. And I'm experiencing that too. So I would love, what's the process though? Let's say that I'm going to skip, you guys are really good working with and mentoring with to kind of flush out your passion. So you mentioned first and foremost, you got to be excited about the product and the niche. So if you're thinking from the end in mind, don't go chase a random, sell garden hoses just because you heard it on a webinar, unless you're really into horticulture and stuff. Then maybe that's
really like gardening. So go for it. Yeah.
Maybe up to you. I don't got a green thumb like that, you know? So, so something you like about, and then do the research. So if you're a good exercise, go shop retail, go to specialty stores. If you like pet food, go to PetSmart and different places and see what's on the shelf. Cause these guys spend millions and billions to get that shelf space. So start there. You guys got creative. You found your product idea in Starbucks. So when you get an idea, cause I think the first exercise is to make a list of like your 10 ideas. What did you do next, Alex? What was kind of the process to like get that idea in motion?
So once we had the idea, we went through the whole data validation process. We checked keyword volume, we checked our competitors, we checked review counts to see if we'd be able to compete or not. We started checking with suppliers to see if the numbers worked. It was the due diligence. Yep, exactly.
Okay. So you ran the numbers, then you use Viral Launch. And what software and tool? Let me ask on a high level, what software and tools do you use?
So the softwares are different now, but if you're going to go doing this today, you would use and Launch likely.
I'm sorry, did you say Helium 10 and Viral Launch?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So Helium 10 is Mandy Coates's private label system, and then Viral Launch is use those two tools. While we're talking about it, what do you guys use for?
Other little tools you can use too to kind of further validate. It's good to use several different ones so you can kind of have a cross section of good information in different places.
Okay.
But yeah, we definitely diligence, and I wouldn't recommend that anyone sell something just because they love it. You need to love it, and you need to do the due diligence. Like both are very important.
You got to love it, and it's got to make money. If you're, if you're in the sewing niche, you might not make as much as they like the custom, motorcycle car part, parts niche or whatever. But okay, so due diligence, I could camp out. The point isn't to do a deep dive on, what kind of criteria you're looking for. I'm just curious. You're doing due diligence. Are there any very high level statistics, kind of like green light things that help you decide that a product's good? Are you looking for rank or competition?
So I think we're looking for how kind of entrenched your competitors are. Like if you find that they have, most of them have less than 100 reviews, yet they have good BSRs. That's a really good indicator right off the bat. That's going to be a good niche.
Okay, so less than 100 reviews. This is just a simple kind of look. And you mentioned what was the second piece?
So if there's a combination of low reviews and high and good, like actually, I think it's technically low BSRs. I get high and low, but so I say good. So you want less than 100 reviews and a low BSR. That combination is a really good indicator that you're looking at a promising niche.
It's more better.
Okay, so this is this is a threshold. Obviously, each product, each brand is unique. It's going to be a little bit different, but so this is kind of what you guys look for, at least for your products. Yeah. Some people may think this is like looking for a unicorn or a needle in a haystack. But what did you do for sourcing? I want to ask, assuming it checks the green lights, and obviously I'm skipping ahead through the process because the research is really what I've learned. This is where 80% of success is you make or break the product. Like if you research, if your product's good, you're going to make money. If you research the wrong product, then you're going to buy inventory and you've got dead capital in this. So what did you do for the sourcing, Alex? This is another area. Like there's the controversy. Do you do US? Do you do China? Your product, I think, lent itself to China. So how did you go about finding a supplier?
We tried several different people in Alibaba, and since then our approach has morphed into using a sourcing agent. And I think we've got some training lined up for this year, and I think it's going to morph even further, where we may move away from a sourcing agent and do, like leverage actual direct trips to China to do our sourcing. So it's evolved a bit. Right now we're using a sourcing agent, but the Alibaba method works.
Okay. Well, walk me through, and we are going to come out. We've got a couple webinars that we're going to be coming out with and training to launch. We're kicking off a new season of Alpha. So to celebrate, we want to bless you guys and give you some tools and resources to get started in private label. So what did the Alibaba approach, Alex? Is there a simple version? Like, because everybody has signed on to Alibaba and you do it a lot of times late at night. I get ideas, and I'm just like, oh, I'm going to see what it is. But how did you navigate through the riffraff to find a quality supplier that would give you like good pricing?
It's really to try it out with several different suppliers and ask the right questions. So and get samples and the second round of samples if you need to, and then once you get the samples, test the heck out of them and make sure that they're really, really quality.
Okay, so the next step would be suppliers. Next step would be the samples. And samples, are you guys just air shipping from China?
Yeah, usually the supplier on their side will say it's X amount. You'll get it in a week. Usually they'll express ship it to you. Yeah.
Okay. And so after samples, you make sure the product's good. What's the production? What's the ordering process like that you have found through China? Like, do you have to get a freight forwarder, or how do you go about placing your first order?
Yeah, you need a freight forwarder, and then once you find a sample in a factory that you like, and that the numbers work that they pitched you, there's also a whole lot around negotiating good prices for that. And so with that, once you found a product where the numbers work, a very high quality product that's going to get good reviews on Amazon, that's very important. Then you can go in and place your first order for whatever MOQ they offer and kind of off to the races.
Okay.
You have to have a freight forwarder. Yeah, that's true.
So I'm oversimplifying. So you've got idea as the first step, data and validation. So it's your due diligence phase. Looking at suppliers, getting pricing from multiple suppliers at the same time. Samples goes kind of step 4, be getting samples from such suppliers, and you always want to see and touch and hold and feel your product. There's something different that happens when you like hold the product in your hand. This isn't our product. This is a Nickelodeon product that I was given as a gift. It was given, but it reminds me to
they know you, Gabe.
Yeah, remember your inner child.
Remember your inner child.
So I keep this on my desk to help me be creative and to just, and I want to, anyways, there's something different that happens though when you touch and hold and feel. And that's our intention for you guys that decide to join Alpha. When you do that, you guys touch and hold and feel your product. It changes things. So that's the sample. The next stage would be negotiating, you mentioned, with the factories. So that's a whole module or section on how do you talk to the Chinaman, forgive my lack of better word. And knowing the Chinese calendar, this is another kind of challenge. Like China is their New Year is coming up in February, so you gotta, the machine kind of pauses and fires back up again. And then you mentioned the order. So walk me through briefly the order process. Do you, as far as the finances go, and I'm asking these questions, Sarah and I have placed our first product, so I know how it works with our factory. I'm asking for someone who's never done this, and it may feel like a scary thing to, send a bunch of money across the ocean to some Chinaman you never met. So
yeah. If you found your supplier on Alibaba, you can make sure that you have something called trade assurance. You pay through Alibaba, and then there's kind of a guarantee on the back end if something goes wrong. If something goes wrong, then Alibaba actually refunds your money, but there's a really specific process for how that works. Now, that said, if you've done your due diligence and you've really vetted the right factory, that step might not be necessary, but it provides an extra layer of protection if you're at all nervous.
Okay.
I would kind of just throw into the mix with this that we hadn't touched on yet is how important it is to differentiate yourself on Amazon. So that's an earlier kind of step, more of a product research development kind of step. But what happens is popular niches on Amazon, even if you find them early on, they get flooded really fast. And so what's really important to do is when you find a promising niche, you need to find some sort of value add for your product that's going to make it stand up above everyone else. And that is the other piece that I really feel like has been part of our success, is that we are we don't sell something unless we can say this is how it's going to stand out from the crowd.
So it's interesting where I'm drilling into kind of the process, and you keep going back to this picking the right product, how important it is to have confidence in your product. So you guys are not doing the Me Too strategy. This is it's not really private label. I call it more of, I don't know. It's like white labeling, just copycat products. That's a short-term, short-sighted strategy. You guys are looking for a product. This is, I learned this from Craig too, looking for niches where there's low BSR and maybe there's 100 reviews, but it's a 3.5 star, and then reading the reviews and finding out why are people complaining about this product and how can we fix and add value to make a better product. Those are the types of opportunities, and that's part of brand building. So I asked you earlier, Alex, this the yard sale versus brand building approach. 1 second here, since we're doing the the show here. So I want to clarify, because this is something that you guys are doing differently, and this is what's going to pay off for you having your 8-figure exit someday and following your path is, a lot of PL sellers just kind of do random products. They got a garden hose, they got some, I don't know, some wine glasses, they got some of this, and they just kind of follow what's money. You guys, found success in 3 products. So I'm curious, so you got this first product. Let me kind of bring the loop together from the ordering process, then I want to talk about how you guys did, products 2 and 3 in the capital side. 'Cause I think that's another big challenge. But just to put a bow tie on the ordering part, you used Alibaba, so you did not go through a sourcing agent in the beginning. You just recently added a sourcing agent, for those of you guys that are familiar with them. And you get trade assurance, you make payment. Did you guys make full payment on your product? Well, let me ask this. What kind of MOQ did you guys get on your first order? Like, how big of an order was this?
Yeah, usually it's about 1,000, but it depends on the product. So.
Okay. So 1,000 units. And then what was your cost of goods sold on that? Do you know what your landed, or like what your investment was for this?
Again, this was for our expensive product. So, it was landed was approaching $40 a unit.
Okay. So premium product. And do you mind sharing your rough price point? Is this like a $50 product, a $100 product, or
$100 product?
$100 product. Okay. So that's another clue for the value that you guys have created in your business and brand. You're not going to compete with the Me Too cheap products. You created a premium brand, a premium product, added value. And so that's a big clue. I heard that early on, actually a couple of years ago, Gary Ray talked about how he did that even with RA and OA, finding bigger things to flip. I know you guys did that with dropshipping too, dropshipped higher margin items. So, okay, cool. So that gives me an idea. Let's talk for a second, Alex. I think it's fair. We talked about, the process you went through, and obviously there's a whole system and a cycle to private label. That's why it's valuable to work with someone that's done it before, because I thought for sure, I've started a lot of businesses over the years. This is I checked it. This is our 13th year in business as a company, 12 going on 13 years. And so we've tried a lot of different stuff. PL is a bear. It is a mojo. And it's like swinging for a pitcher that's got these nasty curves balls. And he can just, at any given point in time, he can just like snake one. And it's like, whoa, how did that come from? I don't know. That's been my...
That's a good description of our last year, actually.
Yeah. So let me ask, what did you guys do wrong? What were some of the mistakes you guys made early on? Like, I know that,
learn really quickly that when you purchased inventory, that it needs to sell because otherwise your money is tied up in that and you don't have money available to you to pay your bills or to invest in new product or so one thing that happened with this anchor product of ours is that it sold amazingly through the spring and we had built up our pipeline for the product. So we had several orders kind of in production at the same time stacked to meet the demand that we had been seeing through the spring. Well, as often happens, there was a big slowdown in the summer because e-commerce was really slow in the summer. So at one point we had like $150,000 in inventory that wasn't moving. And that was extremely stressful.
So what's the root cause? 150 grand in inventory. So that's a painful thing, and it wasn't selling. So what was the cause? Why was that inventory like not moving?
Well, it was a combination of a few factors. There's always a slowdown in the summer, first of all. So we had another big competitor, really big, who dropped their price for the whole summer. I think as a way to, their own strategy was to drop their price to kind of mitigate the summer slowdown on that. Also, caused us to have to drop our price as well to keep up. And so I think part of it was, if you want to call this a mistake, was in our research. I would have still picked the same product, I'll be honest, even with the ups and downs. So it's hard to call this a mistake, but something to very much be aware of when you're making your selections is to see if there's a big boy competitor in the niche that you're going to have to go head to head with to make your product work. So
okay.
that's a big piece that I probably didn't give enough weight in our product selection process.
I would just say that, forecasting is always a challenge. Yeah. Forecasting the amount of inventory to buy. Mm-hmm. But also, circumstances are always changing. The playing field is always shifting. Right. And so what you plan for today is going to look different in ways that, are unforeseen. So some of these are just part of business and life.
Yeah.
Being able to bob and weave with the ever-changing landscape for you.
And something I'd add to that too is you can't tell the future. So these things are going to happen.
Speak for yourself.
These things are going to happen and you have to figure it out when you go. But I don't want people to get scared and not pull the trigger because of factors they're not going to be able to predict.
So yeah, so I'm going to add to this. This is a great, I mean, this is a great lesson for entrepreneurship in general. You know, entrepreneurship is moving and it's changing. So you have to be flexible and you have to be able to learn from your mistakes and move forward. That's the name of the game. You're going to make mistakes. You plan on it. You learn from them. Well, oftentimes you'll learn more from your mistakes. And I mean, this is, I originally heard this. Napoleon Hill talks about this, right? In Think and Grow Rich, every failure brings with it the seed of an equivalent success. Look, my phone's dinging. It's so synchronistic. So be flexible. And I would add to that, though, you've got to be persistent, because if you're not able to have the end in mind, if you will, and that's also the value, I believe, of doing this business, walking with a pack rather than trying to do it alone, because you're going to hit obstacles and it's just how you handle those. So be flexible, be persistent. Let me ask the obvious question, Alex and Jerry, and this is the elephant in the room. I feel like, you know, picking a product, we can overcome that challenge. You know, overdoing the research for it. What about the capital? You guys had another business and you guys have had an exit. We didn't talk about this, but you were able to sell that previous business. So you're the first member of Alpha to have an exit. And the goal is to have many more of those and have 7-figure and 8-figure exits. But how did you get the capital to start? I'm going to ask you this, then I'm going to ask about a new person. Actually, let me before I ask how did you get the capital, how much capital do you think it takes in general? This is what everybody wants to know. How much capital do I need to have to launch a private label business? And it's kind of a loaded question and a little slippery. So how would you approach that if someone were to ask you, I want to do what you guys did. What do I need to start this thing?
Well, a couple things. I would say that, you know, look at what you have right now. You know, start with where you're at. You can only, you know, start where you're at.
Yep.
But you could also think of, and who do you know who would be interested in, because there's a lot of people out there that would be interested in doing something like this, but they don't have the time. But you know what they would do? They'd partner with their friend. They'd pony up some capital, and their friend has the time equity, and they have the equity, you know, so there's a lot of creative ways to bring that. But I think that, you know, a good ballpark is, you know, if you had 10K or so at the ready to be able to invest, that's going to be able to go into product and into advertising and into coaching and grow towards your second product and so forth. So I think that's kind of a nice starting point. 10 to 20 would be, obviously more is better in this case. Sure. You know, but we always start from where we're at. You know, when we started our original business in Amazon, it started with nothing, you know, and built from there. And so for other people who are currently selling arbitrage or in other models, you know, what percent of that can you take and invest in this? You know, what could you know, set aside an envelope essentially, you know, from that system, and have this dedicated account be, and so a little bit of your profits each month go into this bucket. And that's really what we did, was in a lot of ways, we robbed Peter to pay Paul, you know, and that's all right, you know, but right, you know, so you might want to take from one bucket to go into another, and it's definitely a lot of stress, but you know, we wouldn't be here if we hadn't. So at some point, it's deciding to burn the boats and
make it happen
and make it happen and do what you can. And a lot of times it is sort of, you know, I'm not telling people to make a crazy decision, but when you hear about the stories of whatever person, it's something that's so different from what a normal person would do, right? Think about all the different, you know, you think about different stories. So, you know, you got to be willing to, what's it going to take, you know, to go after something. And there's just always, whenever you go after something, well, you know, just watching the football game last night, the national championship game, it takes a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to form your body into something that can do what you've been asked to do. And it takes hours and hours of coaching and to get there, and strength and conditioning, and hours on the road recruiting to build that team. So, you know, if it was easy, everybody would do it.
Yeah. So I'm reminded, thank you. That's the best answer I've heard, Jerry, on the topic of what capital does it take. A great mentor asked me this question one time. I think that goes for any business. What does it take to be successful? I would say, number one, it's probably the wrong question to ask. The right question is, what's it going to take from you? Because capital is just an idea. And sometimes money is a representation of a limiting belief or a positive belief. But I would say the answer is
probably the IRS.
It's gonna take everything you have, your creativity, your contacts, your relationships, your it's gonna take capital. You're gonna have to sell some things. You do what you got to do. But I like that you said, Jerry, to prosper where you're planted, because I think a lot of people, and this is the fear. Let's talk about the other elephant in the room, the fear that paralyzes people from taking action. And there's people that are on this call and watching the recording that have bought multiple private label courses and they haven't created their first product and sold it profitably. Why is I don't believe it's the lack of knowledge. This is why I don't believe info products work. This is why like 80% of info products, people never get past the first chapter. They don't create success. There's some kind of fear that stops people. So I do want to talk about the keys to success, but Jerry, that's a good answer. It takes everything just to humor people, having 10, 20 grand set aside. So if you're start stashing away like a little squirrel, $1,000 a month. And, within a year you'll have it. There's other creative ways to do it. This is part of paying yourself first though, also. And Jerry, you mentioned, robbing Peter to pay Paul. That's one way. And just, paying yourself first and investing in yourself, in your business. Because I used to think also, I asked that question to Craig over a year ago when we were first starting our PL journey, and his answer was about the same. It's changed, but I'm seeing very quickly that, launching one product is that's not the end all, the be all. So you got to stretch your vision and say, what is it going to take for me to launch 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 products over the next 6 months or 8 months, or, and how do you fund the business that way? So I am curious, you mentioned, 10, 20 grand, you guys got into one of your learning expenses. Your product was more expensive. So what were your purchase orders like? You mentioned having 150,000 in capital tied up, but what kind of orders were you guys making in the early days?
That first order of our main product was a $40,000 order. So we're like, man, we got to get this to work.
It was a $40,000 order. Okay. So were you guys a little nervous making that order the first time?
Oh, sure. Yeah. And it's a very long production period too. So it takes about 90 days to from start to dropping it off at the warehouse. And so that whole 3 months was spent like, how are we going to get this to work? Okay. So there was it was real. And I get why delay pulling the trigger, because it's real money that's at stake. It's not like you're just throwing listings up and hoping it sells and then paying for it on the back end like we did with drop shipping. It's like, no, this is actual money that's sunk into this inventory. And if it doesn't work, then the money's gone. So sure. I get it. I think that's part of what keeps people from moving forward and pulling the trigger. But ultimately, when you put that kind of investment in, it also forces you to make it happen. So I think that was actually part of, in a weird way, it was kind of part of why we decided that this was going to work, because it had to. Yeah. I wouldn't recommend that for everybody, but that seemed to that seemed to really be good motivation for us.
So that's certainly one way to take decisive action. And there's something, Tony Robbins talks about this, the psychology of success. You have to believe, success is having faith in things that are unseen. And if you're an entrepreneur, to be successful, you have to be the crazy one. Somebody has to be the one to say, I'm going to make this idea, put my money down, and go create this thing that doesn't exist before. That's the core of being an entrepreneur. If you create a digital product, a physical product, a service, someone's got to do that. So let me ask, if you were to start over again, let me ask this, Alex, with products 2 and 3, you guys were, you didn't have, this wasn't inexpensive, this was a higher ticket product. And you mentioned not just buying one order, but you had to buy a second and a third before you even saw capital back from so your lifetime cycle was long. What did you do differently on product 2 and 3? Did you guys source products any differently?
Our next couple products were still very successful. They were lower in price point. So they were about $10 a unit, each of those. So I wouldn't call them base hits, because they still do really well, like 20K a month in sales. But they were more manageable. They weren't, anytime you made an order for it, it wasn't like, oh, here we go. Yeah. And they've also taken a while to get to where they're at now. To mature.
Now they're really crushing, but some products maybe will be great out of the gate. And then you have the problem of needing to, buy more inventory quicker. But other ones are maybe a slower burn. They take more TLC and work at. And even like one of these took a good year before it really started cranking.
And part of that was our own learning curve.
So
I will say our product number 2 was actually a product that we had kind of experimented with before we started our brand. And that was kind of like one of the first things that we launched when we didn't really know what we were doing. So it was that product that we kind of experimented with and did a lot of learning on. And learned a lot of lessons with that one too.
Added things to it.
Yeah, we did a lot with that to learn. That was kind of a little bit of a laboratory for us, a test exercise. And so that one has grown. We've sold that one for a couple years now, actually, and that one has grown from not doing real well to actually doing very well over the couple years that we've been selling it. So
okay, is this the product you were telling me about offline before the call, Alex?
I'm not sure.
Okay, I can't say the name. So is this for this is one of the things I'll do a quick plug. We're going to talk about Alpha. For you guys hearing us talk about Alpha, I'm going to take in a few minutes. I'm going to talk about that, and then I'm going to save the money question, Alex and Jerry, for the very end of our interview today of what would you do differently. So we'll save that for the end. I'm going to answer these questions about it, but that's one of the benefits of being able to bounce ideas around. One of the things we do with Alpha is we all sign an NDA in the mastermind so we can all share our product ideas with each other openly. And it's very unique from a lot of other programs. Everyone else in the industry is very hush hush. You know, you never share your product ideas, but it's helpful because we can learn from each other. And I can see what you guys do in your niche. We can apply it to ours and vice versa. So for fairness, since we can't say it on this call, is products 2 and 3, are they related to your first? Is this where you started building a brand, or where did the ideas?
We're all part of a cohesive brand in one category. Yep. Okay.
So the ideas where did the ideas come from for products 2 and 3?
Well, I'll just say one of them was I had personal experience with. And I've worked many years in a similar industry, but a lot, again, back to what life experience you have. And one of the exercises we take people through is being able to identify, there's so many more things you're aware of than you even know, and being able to tap into that. And then the other one was related from the supplier had other products, so they were related. But the other thing we haven't talked about that I would just mention is when you say you're creating a brand, what you really want to focus on is who's your customer. Who's the customer that you're looking to serve? And then your products are going to help that customer solve their own problems. So you're really thinking about this person, and you're thinking about, okay, well, what are they, during the day, during the night, what are they going to be using, or what do they need? And then you start thinking about complementary products that go with that. So again, people don't talk about this, but you really want to focus on creating that customer avatar, that person, that John Doe, Jill or Jane, or whoever. You research and figure out who your customer is, and then it becomes much easier because it's much more tangible, and you find other tangible products to go with that person. Rather than focusing on the product, you're focusing on your customer. And that's where your brand, it all goes and reflects through that.
So it's almost before you can ask the question, and I'm asking a lot of questions, I'm asking these from a perspective. We have our first private label product, so I'm still relatively new with PL, but what would a new person who wants to get in this space? There's a lot of members of our group who have become very successful at arbitrage, and they just want to escape the hustle and build an asset where they can have more time freedom, which is the reason people get into the Amazon business in the first place. We all want to be with our families. We all want to travel. We all want to provide a good education for our kids. And we want to do it when you want to work, less time. 4 to 6 hours a day is better than 8 to 12 hours a day, whatever your mojo is. But Jerry, you're saying before we can ask the question. So the question, this is so interesting. Most PL sellers, I think this is where the mindset shift happens. So hopefully some of you have a breakthrough right now and pay attention to this. A lot of people ask, how do I find the product? You're saying that's not really the real question. The real question is, how do you build a brand? And that's a combination of your giftings. And Jerry, you're very good at that as a coach, of pulling those things out of people, kind of the hidden assets, because we all have so much more potential than we give ourselves credit for. But then even that is, not just who's our brand, who are we serving? And so I think this ties back into our core mission and purpose in life. Like, who are you excited and energized about to wake up in the morning and serve? And there's a lot of different markets, from small little children to stay-at-home moms, to dads, to teenagers, to young adults, to 40, 50, 60. There's a lot of different audiences, and people have different problems and challenges, boys and girls, and we all do different things, right? So I think that's a wise word. These are all good. This is why I feel like working with a good mentor in this space is so incredibly valuable. Let me ask Alex, in the sake of time, I promised I would talk about some of the keys to success. We've talked about some of the challenges you guys have gone through with picking, you know, a very relatively expensive product in the beginning. So you wouldn't recommend that for somebody. You wouldn't recommend, you know, stay out of niches where there's a big 500-pound gorilla. So that's a big key. You know, if it checks your other sourcing criteria, but there's a mega company there, probably not the best niche to start with because they're going to have more capital and resources to push you out. What have been some of the keys to your success, though? I'm kind of curious, you know, with your journey, what's really moved the needle for you guys?
I think for us, just as we've been learning to build businesses, one of the things we do over and over is to find the expert at what we're wanting to learn and pay them to coach us. and like that's really the way that we've done what we've done, honestly. Like that's if I boiled it down, that's what I would do again if we were trying to start a business.
You know, you leverage your own strengths, but then you have to know yourself and know, like we talked about your zone of genius. So you have to know what your zones of not so far from genius is. Find those and partner up with those people. And I think that's a real key leadership principle that a lot of people get hung up on. Those who try and stay a one-man show, you're only going to rise as high as your own abilities. And but the people who know how to partner up with others and essentially create a mastermind, that's what we always look to do. And those are the ones who can go much further.
So you, wise words, Alex and Jerry. So I've learned this over the years too. I shared a little bit differently that success is just proximity. So if you want to have something, get close to the person that has it and learn who they are and how they create that thing. So if you want to be a plumber, you hang out with plumbers. You want to be a dentist, you hang out with dentists, you know, et cetera. You want to be an entrepreneur, find a successful entrepreneur and model what they're doing. You know, in school, it's cheating. And in real life, it's smart business. And we innovate and grow and we find a model that works and we say, how do we make it better? You know, so that's a good key to success. I'm curious, guys, because you've been a part of our coaching systems. I think this is your fourth time. You guys had bought some of our early, even before Amazon, some coaching groups and masterminds. You guys were a part of our original platinum group, which is the origin of Alpha. That we had a second version that was alive. You guys were not a part of that. We had a third version. Then we launched Alpha as a private label specific mastermind. You guys joined again this time last year. And when you guys joined Alpha, where were you at in this spectrum? Did you guys have a private label product, or where were you at in that spectrum when you first?
No, we did, and we had fallen on some stuff that was really working for us. So we weren't like newbies to private label either when we joined Alpha last year. So we kind of had some stuff dialed in with plenty of learning that we were about to do in the coming year. Little did we know. But yeah, we joined Alpha, you know, kind of into the process already.
So you had had your first product, you were in motion, you'd already achieved all these kind of the really hard things that most people get stuck on pre-Alpha. You joined Alpha, went from there to your third product. You guys crossed $1 million in sales, 1.2, and you're just warming up. I mean, you guys, and that's why I'm excited for this last question. Once we talk about the program, to talk to you about what's next, because I feel like, you know, with private label, and they say this with any kind of business, your first sale is the hardest. So I believe your first $1 million is the hardest and your first 10 million is the hardest. I believe once you guys have gone through the full cycle and you learn how you hit $1 million, so now it's a matter of how many years and what's the capital and time and systems to push you guys from 7 figures to 8 figures, and then to package that and sell. And then once you have that experience and you have that capital from your first big private label exit, how much faster will you do it the second time? With all that knowledge and wisdom, if that's the path you guys choose, or maybe you'll choose to keep the business and we'll go travel in Thailand and China and stuff like that. So, let me ask a specific story, Alex, and then I will, I'll talk about Alpha briefly, and then we can ask the last question. I want to ask, you know, you guys, when we originally launched Alpha, Craig Soderdahl was our original first mentor, and he has retired, and you guys are replacing him as predecessors. You had a specific experience coaching with him that you were going to basically abandon one of your products, and it turned out to be a massive success. You were telling me offline, Alex, this product is bringing you guys upwards of $15,000 a month in revenue. Is this revenue or profit? You were telling me
in profit. I think in January, it's looking right. Yeah, it's what it's looking like. It was really this anchor product we've talked about quite a bit. It had been such a roller coaster with that product that we were kind of feeling like we wanted to get off.
This was your first or second product?
Well, technically it was our second, but it was kind of our brand's anchor. It's that expensive product that we've already talked quite a bit about. So we had flirted with the idea of not selling it any longer. And Craig kind of convinced us to reevaluate that. And at first we looked into selling the listing, and then we were like, well, maybe we'll keep selling it through Q4 to see what it does. Well, long story short, we got better cost of goods, much better cost of goods. And going forward, we're going to be selling it profitably into 2019. And without that coaching from Craig, we would have probably abandoned ship and had lost out on, you know, a lot of money.
So this is an example. This story is amazing because this is a real life example where the power of a mentor, sometimes mentors save you time. Usually it's time, like they'll shave years off your learning curve by saying, don't do all this stupid stuff that I did, do this instead. Sometimes it's capital. So you guys were ready to abandon this product. And why were you ready to abandon it? What was going on that you had?
I mean, stressful roller coaster. And we were we wanted to kind of branch off into some other products to see if maybe something a little more conservative would work better for us. But it was probably a little bit of a fear-based decision, if I'm honest.
Okay. So you were a little fearful. You had launched the products, overcame that hurdle, but now you were in the, Jerry, you mentioned this kind of the second big monster you face in private label is the forecasting, inventory management, and how you predict, same as with any kind of arbitrage, how do you predict how much to buy? How do you invest your capital and scale this stuff? So you get hit with this, you were going to abandon the listing. And then why did Craig think it was a good idea to keep it? Or what advice did he give you?
Into it. And it was a valuable business asset, and he didn't want to see us throw that away.
So he saw the potential where you guys couldn't see in yourself. He encouraged you to keep it. And then how did you, what inspired you to renegotiate your terms with your supplier?
It was sort of a last ditch effort. It was like, well, we may as well just ask and see what kind of pricing we can get. If we're not, if we can still decide not to sell it, but we just told our supplier like, hey, here's where we are. If we're going to keep selling this, we must have better pricing. And he came back and shaved 20% off our price or something, and it made it workable.
Okay. And then now, I mean, you're mentioning this product now. So one product, $15,000 a month net. So what, do you know roughly what's your margin like? What kind of sales does that represent for you guys?
I'm not exactly sure. It changes up. It's going to be different after the fourth quarter. It's probably going to be $80,000 a month in sales, if I'm doing the math right.
You guys can do the math on the net margin. It sounds like it's pretty close to your
net margin's around 30.
We're right at about 30%. So those numbers don't correct.
So you're better on this product than you were on your original run. So that's interesting. So you told me that story, Alex. I mean, there's pieces that I've seen. So we've been working together in Alpha for a year now, and now you guys are taking over and are going to be mentoring a new group of sellers. You've walked us through, and I'm going to take a few minutes to talk about Alpha. Just briefly, we're going to open up those of you that want to participate. We've got an invitation for you to apply to Alpha, to this new group, because now is the season to be built. Year there's like our new year, and then there's when the factory is opening on us as private label sellers, and it sneaks up every year. But our goal in opening Alpha now early in the season is to get you prepared so you can work with your factory and be ready by midsummer to be gearing up for Christmas already in the summertime. So, June, July, or August, be placing orders rather than waiting till the end. A lot of PL people try and squeeze in stuff right pre-Q4. And I've learned this now that China gets like backed up if you get late to the game. There's benefits to being early on that. So let me talk briefly. Is it okay, guys, if I just talk briefly about Alpha and share? You guys have heard us say this before. I want to take a few minutes to share with you guys what is Alpha, how will it benefit you, how can you apply to be a part of this exclusive group, and then at the end of this interview, I'm going to circle back and ask one final question to you guys, Alex and Jerry. It's my favorite question to ask. What would you do differently knowing what you know now? So how would you refire? And these are where the lessons are. So let me pull this up here. Alpha is actually a third generation mastermind group. And this group has evolved over the years. We've refined the model, and we have found a model that produces results. So Alpha is very unique. This is a part group mastermind for private label sellers and part one-on-one mentoring program. So we have found there's a lot of great masterminds out there. Alex and Jerry, you guys have invested in a bunch of stuff inside the group, outside the group. A quick side story, Alex, what would you estimate if you were to guess what you guys have spent on coaching and mentors over the years?
Oh, North of 30,000.
Maybe even north of 50, honestly. If we really sat down and added it up and included things like conferences and masterminds and coaching and
you include like consulting and
yeah,
so forth. So
a lot.
30 to 50 grand. I would say I'm probably in the same boat. I'm definitely north of 50 grand with coaching, consulting, all different packages like that. So we wanted to create something. When we launched Alpha, full transparency, Sarah and I were new PL sellers, and we sat down and said, as new PL sellers, there's all these challenges. What would we want to create in order to have success? And the very first thing at the top of the list was finding a mentor. I reached out to Craig Soderdahl originally. He helped us kick off the group, one of the founding members. So we got to give credit and respect to Craig. And what's happened is we started with 12 members of the group. We went through a full year of selling private label, and we just ran the numbers at the end of the year to find out we had 75% of the original 12 successfully pick a product. Not everybody has launched profitably because the launch process has changed a little bit. So that's kind of the next evolution. Several members of the group have multiple products. Alex and Jerry, you guys have several products. I believe Craig stacked on another 20 or 30 products this year. I mean, his machine is like cranking. He's north of 50 products now. Jeff Valance, last I talked to him a couple of days ago, he had 8 products live on Amazon. I want to give props to Jeff. I believe he has number 9, 10, and 11. Somewhere in the order process from China. I love Jeff's products on a side note. He's got some really cool stuff he's doing. And Sarah and I have one. So there's kind of a spectrum.
Devin, Gabe.
Yeah, you want to brag on her real quick?
Yeah, Devin was very smart. She had her big product picked out, and it may have gotten just a little hung up in the development process. And she kind of said, well, okay, as long as I'm going to be working on this, I'm going to start in this other direction. And she zigged when everyone else was zagging and found a way to source in the US at a much shorter time frame. And so because of that, she was able to launch several SKUs for the fourth quarter and really kill it while she was still working on developing her main private label product. So
yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Her model is brilliant. The benefit that she has is her speed. She's able to go from idea to product in, I don't think she'll mind me sharing, a couple of weeks versus, going to China can take several months or more and you're dealing with a totally different animal. So there's lots of different business models. This is one of my favorite parts about Alpha. We all have slightly unique business models. Alpha is an invitation only group. If you guys haven't picked up on this, we're very protective of who gets in. We have interview calls with myself. I'm like the bouncer. I get to talk to you on the phone and see if you're a good fit. But we want to make sure that the integrity of the group stays strong because we believe that we're all stronger together in a pack, if you will, as private label sellers than any of us are individually. And so if I look at what is Alpha, it's part mastermind, part one-on-one mentoring. We meet once a month online for an online Zoom call as a group, and those topics range from different things that are coming up. And then we also have one-on-one calls. So we're the only program that I am aware of in our space that does both. And I've seen, we've both been, I asked you earlier about your events. I go to a lot of events, a lot of masterminds, and it's either a great mastermind with great people, but then you go home and you don't quite know how to implement things. I've been to those kind of events, or I've had mentors where I'm like, man, I'm learning a lot from you, but I would really love to learn from some peers who are going through the same process. So we basically we're not good at, there's a lot of things that we are not very good at, but one thing we pay attention to is what works and what produces results, and the combination of the two, and having one-on-one support, direct support from a 7-figure expert such as yourself and myself. You get a kind of a collective approach, has been extremely successful, and I'm excited to see the results that we get from the new batch. So in a nutshell, that's what Alpha is. There's a lot of bonuses and things that packed into this. We have a lot of standard operating procedures. We have a lot of insider resources and tools that we share as a group. As a nutshell, it's a mentoring program. And what we've done is we've opened up, and essentially what this will do for you in the very core of all this, because we're not just doing calls for doing calls. The core of this, we want to give you confidence. And so what we've done is Alpha has grown from one group, and we have been inspired to help the next generation of entrepreneurs. So with Alex and Jerry, we got together recently and had our first mastermind of the year in San Diego and planned out the future of Alpha. And we have a big, crazy vision to help 200 plus entrepreneurs accelerate their business from startup private label to having a successful exit. This is our big, hairy, audacious goal. So in order to do that, we get to serve a new group of people to create success. And so what we've done is we have created different levels to alpha. So Alex and Jerry, do you mind if I take just a second and talk about the new version of alpha?
Go for it.
So it's always fun talking to your computer. You know, you're in your home office here like you guys. So what we've done, guys, we've basically pieced out. We've created an alpha level 1 group. This is a brand new group. We have room for 15 people to participate in this group. It is not an inexpensive info product. There's a significant investment to get into the program. There's a monthly investment to be a part of it. And the goal of Alpha 1 is very simple. Our goal is to empower you to pick and launch a successful product selling on Amazon profitably. Okay, that's the intention of the program, is to get your first product, to get you through the cycle one time, selling profitably. And the reason that this goal is so simple is because we know that if we can empower you to do one product, your belief level is going to go through the roof, and you're going to clearly see the path to go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 5 and to scale. So level 1, plain and simple, is for new private label sellers. So you have either 0 or 1 product and you want to get that first product launched. So that's Alpha 1. But then what happened over this past year is we had a lot of our clients and group achieve success far beyond what we expected. And so we've created a new group called Alpha 2. And this is the group that I personally am a part of with Alex and Jerry Mills. Alex, you'll be leading the Alpha 1 group. We are co-leading the Alpha 2 group together. And Alpha 2 is for private label sellers who are in the intermediate, the scaling phase. So this is a higher ticket program, and this is designed to help you go from 2 products, so after your first product, to your first 5, to your first 10, and to start tackling some of the challenges like getting prepared for retail, things like learning how to set up multi-channel selling outside of just Amazon. So these are some of the new things we're going to be doing in Alpha 2. And then our Alpha 3 group, if I'm going to cast the vision briefly, Alpha 3 is a program that we have stealth called Omega. I'm very excited about this program. So if Alpha is the starting part, Omega is the finishing part, and this is your 7 or 8 figure exit. So Omega is going to be a very customized program. It's going to be working very closely with Jerry, Alex, myself, and some business brokers to build your business to sell. So package you and help you increase your value to get the maximum ROI when you do exit. And this program is in beta, so you can't join this as we speak, but that is the cliff notes of what Alpha is. So what I want to do, guys, is I'm going to take some questions if people have questions. If you guys want to ask me a question, since I'm the host, if you guys have some, Jerry, if you want to be devil's advocate and ask me some questions about Alpha, I'm going to throw up the application link. Here's very simply how to apply for Alpha. If you go to alphamastermind.org/apply, there's the link. So if you're interested in this, if any of this sounds interesting at all, what we've done is we want to have an interview call with you first. We want to make sure it's a good fit. We want this program to be a blessing for you. So if you're interested in this program, it is not an inexpensive program. Our level 2 group starts at $10K to get in the group. There's an $8,400 a year commitment to be a part of the group. We do offer a financing option. You can pay your monthly to be a part of the group. And the level 1 group is $5,000 and $500 a month to be a part of that group. So to help you decide, what we've set up is a very simple application. So head over to alphamastermind.org. For a lot of you guys that have been a part of our mastermind groups, you'll have a chance to fill out an application so we know who you are, and you'll have a chance to schedule a $100 strategy call with myself. So the $100 is very simple. It's a fully refundable $100. It just lets me know who's serious. We're going to have a good conversation, and at the end of that conversation, I'm either going to recommend that you join Alpha, and we will apply that as a deposit to the program, or if it's not a good fit, we'll part as friends. And my goal and intention for these strategy calls is to give you 10 times the value from this call so that you can take this and get on the journey to PL success. So our 100% guarantee, Jerry, since you got to have a guarantee on programs like this, we believe so fully in what we're doing and that this will bless and impact your life that if you take the strategy call and you do not believe it was worth 10 times the value that you invested for your time with me, then I'll give you your $100 back. You can keep the advice on the call for free, and we'll part as friends. So it's about as no-brainer and simple and smooth of a process. But basically, that'll just give us a chance to talk on the phone and see if it's a good fit. So Alex and Jerry, before we turn back, I'll ask you, Jerry, you got any questions for me? I tried to do my best to summarize our life's work in like 5 minutes or less. And I feel like words sometimes don't do justice for what a mentoring program like this can do. But questions, man, if you were to ask me anything.
Yeah, I'd probably, if I were in somebody's shoes, just say, well, what goes on in a typical month in the program? What does that entail?
Good question. We like to be structured and organized. So a typical month in Alpha looks like we have one group call each month. We've recently shifted these calls to the second Tuesday of each month. It happens in the afternoon, 1 p.m. Central. So the same time that we have this call, we get together for an online Zoom. And those are typically topical. So Alex, I'm very excited to have you be a part of these. Craig's been leading these calls for the past year. You're going to be help leading these calls moving forward. We're basically going to have content, typically the first part of the call. So if the group as a whole, for example, if you're in a level 1 class and the entire group is picking a product, there'll be some teaching and training on kind of a more deep dive of how to go about the picking a product process. And then we typically have some kind of roundtable on each month where you have a chance to share with your peers, come out, talk about what's working, what's not, get feedback from the group, etc. So that's kind of the core call. We also, each month, you'll have a regularly scheduled one-on-one call that'll be with you, Alex and Jerry, on the technical side. I like to step in and do one-on-ones with the group on a periodic basis, kind of on a high level to keep you focused in on your vision. So we kind of take a tag team approach to the mentoring, but the one-on-one mentoring, to answer your question directly, Jerry, we just surveyed Alpha. We have a lot of resources for the group. We really basically every resource we have for PL, we pour into this for you. So it's not just coaching and mentoring, but the number one feedback we got from members from this past year was their favorite part and what got them the most results the quickest is and was the one-on-one mentoring with a veteran seller. So having the opportunity to get on the phone with Craig Soderdahl has been invaluable. You know, I got to see him go from $1 million something to 2.4 million in sales, and he's scaling. He's hired an internal right-hand person, and to get to work with you guys, Alex and Jerry. So we're this is the hair care for men. Jerry, I'm not only the president, I'm also a user, right? Because Sarah and I are also customers of Alpha. So I'm looking forward to mentoring with you, Alex. And I told Sarah on our way, I drove her to work this morning, and she had some questions about our next product. I said, babe, it's a good thing Alex just posted her schedule in the group because you got to go book some time, because we need to get we're looking for the same feedback on our next products. Because I have the same fear and anxiety about, we don't have endless capital. We got to invest our funds wisely. And we leverage, full transparency, in case you guys are wondering, we leverage the revenue that we generate from Alpha to build the private label business. So it's part of the model. It's part of how we're getting creative to help other people. We're going to use the capital that you invest into Alpha, invest that into new products, and we all learn together from it. So that's a typical month, Jerry. We have new for this year. I will share this. This is a new bonus for this year. Alex and I are working on a new Alpha manual, which will be kind of standard operating procedures for the different systems in your business. So Alex and I have our work cut out for us to really break down the different processes. So we're going to break down those SOPs. Craig has already shared one of the other bonuses we offered last year, and we'll continue to offer that. Craig shared his entire SOP folder. So standard operating procedures. These are tasks that he has his VAs doing for him. So product research, for example, if you'd like to hire a VA to take some of the heavy lifting off, you can go to that document, pull out what Craig's doing, what's the criteria, what's the software, and you can use that to train your VAs. So a big part of Alpha across the whole board is, this is not just another mentoring coaching program. We want to not just give you fish, we want to teach you to fish. And that's the core of what we're up to. And the way that we teach you to fish is we teach you to build systems and processes so that you build a real asset that you can sell, scale and sell, and not just get stuck in the business. So that's a typical month, Jerry. Group coaching, one-on-one, and then the last segment of the group, and probably, I'm a little biased, I would argue the second most favorite part of the program is our annual live retreat. And I say I'm a little biased because I've been a part of lots of live retreats over the years, and the rubber has always met the road for me personally as an entrepreneur. When you get out of the computer, you get out of the home office, you go somewhere, and you hang out with a group of people that are playing at a different level, I always leave those retreats encouraged, inspired, and sometimes doing things differently than I did before. But we host a live retreat. We got plans to do it this summer. So we're going to do it early. We call this early preseason Q4 to give you plenty of time to get prepared. Alex and Jerry, you guys are traveling to China this year, which is another very exciting. You're I believe the third member of our group now to journey from our huddle to the China land. So we've talked about in the future potentially having China type sourcing trips. We're not doing this currently as a group, so I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. But can you tell us quickly, Alex, what are you guys going to China for? Can you explain that real quick?
So there's it's in doing business in China, having friendly relationships with the factories is incredibly important, and it's in the traveling when you show up there and spend time with them and get to know them a bit and go out to dinner and it's different than in America, and that's how you really build the equity with factories, for them to take you seriously, for them to give you better production time, better pricing, better payment terms. So there's a lot that can be sort of won on that side when you go physically there and build relationships.
Plus, with this particular fair, the Canton Fair, the largest in the world, there's products there, there's suppliers there that are not on Alibaba. The only way that you're going to find them is to physically go there. And we'll have a team of people there who are Chinese, who will be our liaisons, our sourcing team, and the opportunity to find products we never would have considered that nobody else is going to have. Again, it's another way of differentiating between what everybody else is doing to stand out.
So very cool. So I didn't, it's a side note, like I said, we're not doing China trips yet. I do believe there's value in having you guys as our mentors. You're taking new ground up the mountain. So the sign of a great mentor is you can help someone. It's like a Sherpa. You want to get them up the mountain to the next base camp. And then from that base camp, we go to the next base camp. So you guys are doing some next level things. Craig's hiring some next level people. And so this in a nutshell is what Alpha is. If this resonates with you guys, chances are you have some questions. That's why we set up the strategy call. If this is the first time you're hearing about this, you may be wondering, how does this work? Head over to alphamastermind.org/apply. Fill out the application, put your $100 down as a deposit for a call. And then what will happen next is you'll be redirected to my personal schedule once page. So you'll hit my personal calendar. You'll be able to book a time that works for you. Automatically syncs with your Google Calendar, so it'll show up on your Google Calendar. And then on that call, all I ask is that you call me. Okay, so I have a very busy schedule as you do. I need you to pay attention when that call comes up. My number will be listed on that page. You can give me a call, and then we'll jam about your vision, your dream, what you're up to, and see which group Alpha may be a good fit for you. Full disclaimer, okay, here's the scarcity of the program. This is authentic. We opened this program a year. It's been closed for the entire year. So this is not something that we have opened up. We are just now, again, a year later after we've gotten the results, opening up seats for this group. So full transparency, we have 15 seats available in level 1. Okay, so if you're a beginner private label seller, that's where we recommend starting. We built Alpha One to be the ultimate resource to get you that first private label product selling profitably. If you're an advanced seller, and I'm talking here, this program is great. We'll talk very quickly, guys, who this is for. Raul and Liz Garcia, those of you of the world. Steve and Daisy Pringle, those of you that are creating great results already in your arbitrage and you're ready to learn how to turn the arbitrage funnel down and turn the private label up. It's a delicate balancing act, we've noticed, and it's probably more than this call. So that's what level 1 is for, beginners. And level 2, our existing group. This is our personal group. So this is the group that I help co-lead with Alex and Jerry. So you get my cell phone number as being a part of this group. That group is currently mostly full. We only have 8 seats available in this group. And if you're, by the time you're watching the interview, these numbers will probably change. So as seats are open, we open them. So limited, we are intentionally keeping these groups small. And that's the question. People ask all the time, how many peers am I going to have in this group? Well, one of the things we ask you to do when you apply is to sign our digital NDA. So this is the document that protects you and your intellectual property as well as ours. So we all sign the same NDA. It's basically what's said in the mastermind stays in the mastermind. And then we're capping these groups at 15. And there may be a way in the future that we'll find ways to help more people, but we have found from our experience over the years of being a part of groups, I have found 10 to 15 to be a sweet spot. I've been a part of groups that have 25, 30 people. Personally, they felt a little full, especially if we do live events. Sometimes you add a third day and things. So we found that to be a nice little sweet spot. And since this is being recorded on the internet, Alex and Jerry, we reserve the right to change the program at any time. So we may evolve this in the future, and chances are it'll grow and scale. So very cool, guys. Let me ask if you guys have questions for myself, for Alex and Jerry. And then I'm going to conclude this. Guys, I promised at the beginning we would keep this short and tight. And as typical, I'm going to ask your forgiveness. We went a little bit longer than we expected. I hope that's okay for you guys. I'm reading David Raby says this is a very down-to-earth interview. So thank you, David. I'm not for sure why we don't see the name here. Cindy Rooney, love the gold nuggets. Hello. So Raul, can't find the site. Let me give you the URL one more time. Jerry, you got any other? That was a good question. You got any other questions, Jerry, while we're fielding some questions here?
What's your favorite brand of hair gel?
Good question.
Branding.
I'll answer that question. I use a very specific hair gel, Jerry. It's expensive, probably double what the normal hair gel is, but I've been using it for probably 20 years because I love it. I'm a repeat customer.
Perfect example.
I buy it every quarter.
There is a lesson.
It is, what the heck is it called? Crew.
What money do you think you've invested?
I can picture the label. It's called Crew. I think it's KREW. It's a hair. They have a pomade. I use the dry stuff. It's a blue label. I'll share with you guys. Hey, Raul, the site, alphamastermind.org, O-R-G, for organization, because we like to think of ourselves sometimes as secret agents, a part of a secret mission to create freedom. So alphamastermind.org/apply. Let me pull it up on my computer. That's the application. Alpha. Pull this up here as we're talking. You can also go to alphamastermind.org. They both redirect there and the /apply. So that's how you apply, Raul. And we thought of this. I thought of you. I thought of Daisy and Alex. I thought of some other members of our original TAP group. This is ideal. So for those of you guys that have been gearing up, I strongly encourage you. Alex, what would you say? Somebody knows they want to get into PL. They're inspired by your story. They're inspired by Craig's story. My goal is to model what you guys did and build a 7-figure asset in the next 12 to 18 months here. But they've never been a part of a group like this before. You guys have invested heavily in groups before. What would you say to that person who's like, hey, I would like to work with you guys. I've just never done something like this before.
Yeah, I would say I can remember, I'm thinking back to when we made our first kind of big coaching investment, and I had to be convinced, I will tell you, because it felt like such a big chunk of money that could go to 10 other things. And so I guess what I would say to that person is, this is not spending money on a trip or some clothes or on something that's going to go away. This is an investment. And so the point behind this is to put the money in, and then you get it back 2 or 3 or 4 or 10x what you originally put into it. And so that's the key difference that I think helps me now when we go to invest. I can see what the payoff is going to be at the end of that. And that has always helped push me off the ledge when I need it.
Yeah, that's well said, Alex. And I'll share this too, because if I think about the value of Alpha, and I mean, our Alpha system is evolving. It's going to continue to get better. And our goal this year specifically is to speed things up. So we're actually kicking off. We have our first Alpha call coming up next week. It's actually happening on the 15th. So those of you that get in before then, you'll get to be a part of our January call. And our goal right off the bat is to talk about the 90-day year. So we're going to speed, if you look at private label as a season, as the whole year, we're going to speed this up and break this into little chunks called quarters and learn how to build 90-day sprints to build success. So how you do anything is how you do everything. And so we're going to inject, that was a big topic of our initial coaching mastermind that Alex and Jerry and myself had in San Diego, is how do we inject speed? How do we inject urgency into the group, and how do we get people to get results faster? Because it doesn't have to take, I don't want you to hear the story. I mean, it took Sarah and I a year. My goal is that you guys do what we did in a year in 3 months. That's the goal for the new group. So very cool. He says he had it. So let me clarify. Someone's going to be asking about what's the investment to be a part of Alpha? I mentioned this briefly. I'll say this briefly again. As of today, to be a part of the level 2 group is a $10K investment. That's to be a part of our top-level intermediate group with Alex, Jerry, myself, Craig Soderdahl, and the other top-level sellers in our group. There's a monthly also with that. You can pay that annually to be a part of the mastermind system in the retreat, or monthly. Most of our group members choose to pay the monthly option. And then the level 1 group we created as a beginner system. So level 1 to be a part of Alpha Level 1 is $5,000 to get into the program, and then $500 a month. It comes out to $6,000 a year to be a part of the system. And that's to have the same mentoring to get you, again, the goal is to get you to graduate level 1, get your first product selling profitably, see the potential of the system, and then join Alpha 2 to begin building your brand and expanding on your empire. And then when the time is ready, we will release the Omega program from the confines of our idea factory to help you guys package and sell for the future. So that is Alpha. So Raul and those of you guys that have been a part of the group, we're going to continue. We've got some good trainings coming down the pipe for you on private label. Let me ask this while y'all are applying, write that URL down. I ask that you take a couple minutes and just sit quietly to answer the questions authentically. We strategically designed the application for Alpha to bless you. So there's some strategic questions that help you think outside the box and to help you get clear on your vision. So take some time to do that. Alex and Jerry, I promised I'd ask the closing question. So I think that time has come. So this is my favorite question. You guys are just warming up, and I'm excited to have you guys back on an interview a year from now. We'll circle back right before 2020 and be having another conversation about what we learned. But knowing what you know now, if you were to start over again from scratch today, what would you do differently in launching your first brand?
I would, what do you think? I'm going to mull on this for a second. Usually I'm quicker to answer.
I don't know that I'd do anything differently, except maybe start with a brand-centered focus sooner. So at first we tried some different products, but I would say to people that if they, let's say they had ideas of products in different categories, right? What do you do then? Well, maybe you can do sort of what we did, which was just try kind of cast your bread upon the water and see what comes back to you, and kind of then put your focus into what's working. Or you could just say, okay, I'm going to focus on the brand first and then go from that, you know? So I think that we took, even us, you know, when we first started, it went so slow. It took a really long time to get everything going and so forth. And we wish we'd had mentors back then. We were really trying to do it on, it was probably a year in before we really invested in higher level coaching and groups.
Yeah, this was before we started our brand. So I think for me, what I would have done differently, it's probably a little bit more along the mindset line. I would have reminded myself that this is the long game, and we're 1 year in, and we don't have to figure the world out in the first year.
And that's where a mastermind and a group would have been supported.
Yeah. Because
you couldn't do that to yourself, right? You would need others around you, because we didn't have others around us.
You're talking about from the very beginning.
Well, I'm saying that you said, like, I would have told myself to do this, but I'm saying that that's the value of the group, is that we think we can do it on our own, but what we do is we really need those other voices that can speak to us and help us to see those things. That it would have saved maybe a year off of our time to do that sooner.
Early on, yeah.
Yeah, that's the value of a good mentor. It's called tough love. So a good mentor, and this is what we ask from you guys. We're going to ask you when you apply, what kind of coaching do you want? Hopefully you ask for authentic, real coaching. And sometimes that's going to be a pat on the back, and sometimes it's going to be a slap on the face. Stop doing that. So that's the value of a great coach, is to tell you what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong and what you can learn from. And we do the same thing as well. So yeah, very excited. Got a cool, we're excited for this year, guys. I'm already thinking towards Christmas 2019, Christmas 2020. Sarah and I have a big, hairy, audacious goal to build an 8-figure Amazon business by 2025. So that's our 8-figure exits. We'll see if we hit that goal. Or I've always said, though, if you shoot for the stars. Sometimes you miss it and you still land in, what's the saying? You still land in outer space.
The moon. You miss the moon, but you land in the stars. I think
I love it. So, all right, guys, well, we're going to wrap this up. We have more. I'm going to have Alex and Jerry back for a deep dive on the number one question I know a lot of you guys have that are coming into Alpha for the first time is how do I pick the first product? And we touched on a high level today of how to do that. But Alex and I are going to work on some content for you guys for the next couple of days. So keep an eye out for that. In the meantime, if this resonates with you, if you're ready to make this year your year and you're ready to invest in yourself and commit to the next 12 to 18 to 24 months and beyond, I'd like to be the first to invite you to apply to the Alpha Mastermind group. As long as we have seats open, we'll be taking applications. And then once the group fills, it will be filled. And we will be focusing our attention on this group of students to help you guys get the same results and better. And I'm very excited for this year. So appreciate you guys being on. Alex and Jerry, any closing thoughts?
No, just excited to chat with the folks who decide they want to put their hat in the ring.
Yeah, good chat with you, Gabe.
Yeah.
Yes, always a pleasure. Great interview, guys. Appreciate your time. So, all right, guys, Gabe Strom from Chicago, Alex and Jerry Mills from sunny San Diego signing off. Go ahead and apply to the Alpha Mastermind group below, and we'll see you guys on the call real soon. Have a good one.